Hi guys, it's Jess and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another 5-star predictions video. So, the last video I posted was me telling you guys whether the books that I predicted that were going to be 5 stars back in January were actually 5 stars or not. And it's always interesting to see whether my predictions are going to be right or not. And so, of course, I am going to be doing another 5-star predictions video because I have some more books that I am planning to read over the next 4 months, the next third of 2021, that I think are going to be 5 stars. I could be wrong, I could be right, hopefully I'm right, but we're gonna find out. What are those books? So I have 8 books that I want to show you guys, and I will try and get through them as quickly as possible. I don't want to keep you here forever. But the first book that I want to talk to you guys about is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. Now, at the time of filming this video, I am currently reading this book. So I kind of feel like I know where this book is going to fall on the rating system for me. As you can see, I've been tagging little bits of it here and there. But this book is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and it is set in Shanghai, China in the 1920s, and there is a scary monster on the loose. So those 4 things just really sell it to me. Now, I'm not a huge Shakespeare fan, and Romeo and Juliet was like my least favourite thing in school because we did it all the time. But the setting of this book, the time period and the location just really appeals to me, and then adding in the fantasy element of this monster as well sounds really cool. Now that I have read a little bit of this book, I'm kind of more aware of what the monster is. Like, it lives in the Huangpu River, I hope I've said that right, which is the river that runs through Shanghai, and I kind of imagined it at first as like a big sea serpent, you know, like a big snake, but it's actually not that at all, and it's kind of like this monster that you know, merges into loads of insects and starts infecting people, and they're like clawing at their throats and going mad, and it's pretty fatal. Like, you're not really likely to survive that kind of thing. And so in this book, Juliet and Roma, who are on opposing sides of the gangs in Shanghai, there are the White Flowers and the Scarlets, and they're opposites. They have to put their differences aside and team up to try and find out what this monster is, why it's doing what it's doing, and stop it. And it sounds absolutely amazing. I have been wanting to read this book for quite a few months now. I first got whiff of it towards like the end of last year, just before it came out, and people have been saying nothing but amazing things about this, so I am fully expecting it to be a solid 5 stars. By the time this video goes up, I will have probably already read it, and you guys might know what I think of it or what I rate it if you follow me online. If not, stay tuned in 4 months' time and you'll find out. Subscribe to me, by the way. That's how you will know. Next we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio, and this is a book that I am planning to pick up next. Again, by the time you see this video, I will have probably already have read it. But this is a book that I have been wanting to read for a long time. It's been on my TBR for a couple of years now. I've only seen it on BookTube a couple of times, and both times they have had nothing but positive things to say about this book, and I've seen it online a lot more recently and people have been absolutely loving it, but the premise of this just sounds like something I would absolutely love. Again, it's centered around Shakespeare, which is kind of funny because don't really do Shakespeare, but Matt Haig's retellings of Shakespeare have been really good as well, so maybe I just like retellings. So this book is all about this guy called Oliver, who is coming out of prison after spending 10 years inside for the murder of someone's death. So that someone was someone who was taking part in a play with Oliver and a bunch of other guys, and that guy ended up dead during the play. Oliver was accused of his murder. However, there is this detective that rocks up 10 years later and has suspicions that it wasn't Oliver who killed him, that it was someone else or something else. I don't really know anything else other than that, but it sounds really cool. It sounds like a very unique murder mystery. Like, it doesn't sound like anything I have ever read before, and like I said, I've heard amazing things about it, so I'm fully expecting this to be 5 stars. I won't accept anything less. Another book that I have been really wanting to read since it came out last year is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. So I've heard incredible things about this book, and I've got the premise here on my phone because I don't have the book, but I have the ebook good to go, and I am planning to read this for Pride Month in June, but the first line on Goodreads just really sells this book to me because it says Yadriel has summoned a ghost and now he can't get rid of him. And that just sounds like so much fun. So this book is all about Yadriel, who is a trans guy, and he lives with his Latinx family. They're very traditional. Don't know if they are aware of his gender. I don't think they are aware of his gender, but Yadriel has been struggling to accept his gender. And he wants to become a Brujo, which is their word for sorcerer. And so with the help of his cousin and best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy, and Julian is not about to go quietly into death. He's determined to find out what happened and tie up some loose ends before he leaves. Left with no choice, Yadriel agrees to help Julian so that they can both get what they want. But the longer Yadriel spends with Julian, the less he wants to let him leave. So it sounds like a really fun ghost story. And yeah, like I said, I've heard amazing things about it. It's got 4.4 stars on Goodreads. That's a really high rating. I do follow Aiden Thomas on Twitter, and just seeing the passion that he has for his writing just really makes me want to read his book, and I am really ashamed that I haven't read it yet, but like I said, I'm going to be reading it next month for Pride, and I'm so excited for it, and I just can't wait to see what it's all about and find out why people love it so much. Alright, so the next book is The Deep by Nick Cutter. So I read The Troop last November, and that was probably the first horror book that I read that I really connected with and just felt really grossed out and terrified by. Like, The Troop was just intense, and that was a 5-star read. I've heard great things about The Deep as well, and the concept behind it just sounds so interesting, so I'm fully expecting this one to blow my mind and be 5 stars as well. But The Deep is all about this plague that kind of makes you, well, it doesn't kind of, it does make you forget how to live. And it's like an extreme version of Alzheimer's, I guess. That is what it reminds me of. Because this plague, this virus just kind of infects you, and first you start off forgetting things like words, names, places, stuff like that, just normal everyday things, and then you start to forget how to walk and how to talk and stuff like that, until it gets to the point where your body just forgets to function, like your heart doesn't know how to beat anymore, and you die. And like, there's no cure for it, but there is this guy who is deep down at the bottom of the ocean, which is why it's called The Deep, I guess, who is working on a cure. And that is all I really know about it, but it sounds really terrifying. Like, that kind of idea of just, you know, forgetting how to live and just being completely incapacitated, and stuff like that just really, really scares me. So I think this is going to be a very intense, and I have seen some people's reviews of this so far and they absolutely loved it. So yeah, I'm interested to see whether it's going to be 5 stars or not, whether it's going to be as good as The Troop. I hope it is. We'll see. Next is Girl A by Abigail Dean, and this is quite a recent release actually. It only came out at the start of this year, and this book actually has quite mixed reviews, like it's either a love or hate book, but I feel like I am really going to enjoy this book. This book follows a woman called Lexi who was known as Girl A. Girl A was the girl who escaped the House of Horrors. So where she lived with her parents and her siblings, it was deemed a House of Horrors because something quite awful happened there. I don't really know what that is, but it ended up with her mum being sent to prison and her father died in the House of Horrors. And then when she's older, Lexi finds out that her mother has died in prison, and has left her and her siblings the House of Horrors. And so they end up going back there, and that is when they start to find out a lot of things that they probably wish they hadn't found out, and it's all about secrets and betrayals and stuff like that, and it just sounds really interesting. It sounds like a really cool psychological thriller. I haven't read a really good thriller in such a long time, so I'm really hoping that this one will be the one that will do it for me. Like I said, it has got mixed reviews, but it's about the kind of things that I'm really interested in, and it actually kind of reminds me of Home Before Dark. I feel like every time there is a house in a story like this, it's called the House of Horrors, but in Home Before Dark there was a house that was called the House of Horrors, and it was supposedly haunted. This one is obviously going to have a very different vibe. Like, I don't think it's going to be a haunted house scenario. It's probably going to be like a very sick and twisted scenario involving her parents, and I'm interested to see what that's all about. I suspect it's probably going to have a lot of trigger warnings in it as well, so I do need to look that up, but I'm really excited for this one. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to talk about is a book that I don't really know how to explain because it just sounds like there is a lot going on, but you guys might have read this book, and if you have, then please let me know what you thought of it. But that is The Poppy War by Rf Quan. I've been wanting to read this book for a while now, but it has really intimidated me because, one, it's high fantasy, and high fantasy is a genre that I love, but it does take me a while to get into sometimes just because there is always so much going on. And secondly, because this is a really well-loved series. People have been absolutely hyping this series up to no end, and stuff like that just intimidates me because I don't want to not like it, if you know what I mean. But this one sounds really interesting because it is centered around Chinese culture and Chinese history of the 20th century, which isn't something I'm very familiar with. And I am trying to broaden my reading horizons and read more diverse stuff. And fantasy is getting really diverse now, and I really want to be delving into that more. And that just sounds really interesting. But it's really hard to kind of sum up what this book is about without having read it. But it is about this girl called Rin, who she's a war orphan, and her guardians are trying to like marry her off to someone to kind of further their criminal enterprises. Then they don't sound like very nice people, but she ends up passing these tests that get her into this military school, and everyone's like, wow, really didn't think she was gonna do that. So she's kind of like now free to go off and serve in the military, and she does a load of training, and she finds out that she has this magical power, this unearthly power that it says here, it's a lethal and unearthly power with an aptitude for the nearly mythical art of shamanism. So that sounds really, really cool. It sounds very different to what I've read before. And exploring her gift with the help of a seemingly insane teacher, Rin learns that gods long thought dead are very much alive, and that mastering these powers could mean more than just surviving school. And it's set in a world where they've already had 2 Poppy Wars, and they're on the brink of the 3rd Poppy War. And I think Rin is kind of like the predicted saviour of this world, of the Empire, and is going to end the 3rd Poppy War. I don't really know, but it sounds super interesting. So I really feel like this is going to be 5 stars because I haven't seen anyone say a bad thing about this. I was looking at the reviews for this on Goodreads, and people have said that it has exceptional character development. Like, the characters in this book is amazing, and it has amazing plot twists and just a really, really interesting world. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I really feel like this is gonna be an amazing book. A 5 stars. Another book that people have been hyping up to no end recently, and a book that I am so excited to read, is The Gilded Ones by Namina Fauna. And if this isn't 5 stars for me, then I will be very surprised because, like I said, it's been hyped up everywhere and it has a very high rating on Goodreads. I know that Goodreads doesn't mean shit to a lot of people, but I always trust people's opinions. And this one just sounds like something I would really, really enjoy. I mean, the cover itself is just absolutely stunning and it just really, really calls to me. But the concept behind this sounds so intriguing as well. It's about this girl who is getting ready for the blood ceremony, and the blood ceremony is this thing that happens where they test the people's blood to determine whether they're going to be a member of a certain village or not. So this girl is having her blood tested to see if she can be a part of her village. If her blood runs red, then she will be a member of the village and she will live life as normal. But then her blood ends up running gold, which is a sign of impurity. It's a sign of demon's blood. And because of that, she is then set up for a fate that is worse than death. I don't really know what is worse than death, but I'm gonna find out. And then at some point in the story, this woman appears to her and says, look, you can either be a part of your village and then end up worse than death, or you can come with me and you can be part of my army. And there is this army of girls just like Dika, I think her name's Dika or Deka. I need to check that. I'm really sorry about the pronunciation. But she gets sent to train in this army, and this army is an army of girls just like her with gold blood who are like near immortals, I guess. And they are the ones who are set out to kind of get rid of the Empire's greatest threat. And it sounds like a really, really intriguing story. It sounds like a really different fantasy to every other fantasy that I've read so far this year. And there's just something about it that is really, really calling to me, and I don't know what it is, but I think it's just the uniqueness of it. And the different culture. I'm really, really interested to see how all of it plays out. And I'm fully expecting it to blow my mind. Alright, so the last book on this list is The Minders by John Mars, and I am really, really eager to get to this very soon because I love John Mars. This is his most recent book. It came out not too long ago, and I've heard really, really great things about this. John Mars always has like the coolest concepts for thrillers. They always have like sci-fi, futuristic elements to it, and he is always really good at plot twists and diverting the reader one way when the story is actually going this way. Like, I'm always surprised buy his stuff. I've read 2 of his books now and both of them have been amazing. And this one sounds so cool because it is set in the 21st century and it's kind of all about computers and hacking and stuff like that. And there is this government initiative that sets out to kind of stop terrorism. And so what they do is they get these 5 people and they are selected to become minders, and they are the latest attempt to thwart cyber terrorism. Transformed by a revolutionary medical procedure, the country's most classified information has been taken offline, turned into genetic code, and implanted inside their heads. Together, the 5 know every secret, the truth behind every government lie, conspiracy theory, and cover-up. In return, they're given the chance to leave their problems behind and a blank slate to start their lives anew. But not everyone should be trusted, especially when they each have secrets of their own they'll do anything to protect. And that's the thing I love about John Mars, is that all of his characters have shit going on that is not good half the time. There's always something surprising about everyone, and I just love how he links stuff together really neatly, and it's always so fast paced. Like when I read The Passengers, I read that book in about 24 hours, which is probably the quickest I've ever read a thriller because it was just so fast paced and he ended everything on a cliffhanger, and I just felt like I needed to know what was happening. So I'm really hoping that that happens with this one. John Mars hasn't let me down yet. I do have another one of his books on my Kindle that I would like to read as well, but I'm just so excited to read this one. And I'm planning to get to it in June. Alright, so those are all of my new 5-star predictions, my 5-star predictions for the second third of 2021. I can't believe that it is May already and we are now on month 5 of the year. Like, it's really weird because the start of this year has felt like the longest time of my life, but it has also gone really quickly. I don't even know what is going on anymore. But yes, it is May, so for the next 4 months I will be squeezing these books into my TBRs somewhere, and I'll be finding out whether my predictions on them are right or not. Like I said, if you want to see whether I am right or not, then you can subscribe to my channel. The little red button is down there. Click it, I would really appreciate it. If you've read any of these books that I have talked about, then please let me know what you thought of them and whether they were 5 stars for you or not. I always love to hear your opinions. Please also leave a cheeky thumbs up if you liked this video, and you can also hit the bell button so you can be notified every time I upload. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. I will see you all in another video very soon. Bye guys.